Sometimes you just want to be sad. Sometimes it feels good to be sad. Cowboy Bebop is sad, but it feels good to watch Cowboy Bebop. What's going on here? Cowboy Bebop is a tonal piece. Even more than being an eclectic genre piece, everything in Bebop is washed with emotion, and everything in Bebop is perfectly crafted to resonate subconsciously with internal, innate emotions. And more than often, Bebop goes for weighty, sad, and melancholic resonations, and that's what I want to focus on in this video. Unlike something like Evangelion that has a reputation for being a depressing, sad anime, Bebop is, in reality, far more depressing and far sadder than Evangelion when you think about it, even though it lacks a similar reputation. Shinji and Asuka get a happy ending and realize how to better themselves, and everybody else is having instrumentality sex or whatever, having a great time when Evangelion concludes. But in Bebop, all the characters get depressing, sad endings. Spike dies and it's more melancholic, get used to that word, than sad I'd say, but it isn't a happy ending. Ed and Ein get somewhat of a happy ending when they journey off to go and live with Ed's father, but it's literally the emotional high point of the series, and it properly portrays the sadness of saying goodbye to a friend, and the orange tones invoke all the depression of a sunset. It may be the happiest ending here, but it's also probably the one most likely to make you cry. Jed is left alone again, having lost a friend he clearly cares about, and Faye has it even worse, as it seems Jed has come to terms with Spike's departure in the last scene we get with him. Faye just breaks down as Spike leaves and we never see her again. But again, the sadness and melancholy all this imparts is why we love the series so much. It's why it's held with such regard, because sometimes it feels good to be sad. I feel there's a disconnect with Cowboy Bebop's reputation relative to what the series actually is. I feel like people, as I did before watching this series, think that Cowboy Bebop is a fun-loving series with wacky space antics. And sure, some elements of some episodes are like that, but Cowboy Bebop was built to be a tragedy. And this is why I think it's hard for younger members of the anime community, and even myself at 16 when I initially watched the show, to properly understand Cowboy Bebop and why wailing and sadness is so fun. I originally wanted to cover this in a video titled The Struggles of Being a Teenage Anime Fan Trying to Understand the Classics, but I decided to incorporate that point into this video. As a teenager, you can't fully understand and experience Cowboy Bebop because you don't have the necessary life experience to connect with the characters. I know this because it's what happened in my case. The first time I didn't really get it, and then after some time had passed and some life was experienced, I went back and understood the show and the emotional weight behind it. When I first watched Bebop, I didn't even like the show outside of episode 5, 24, 25, and 26. But now I love every episode and better understand what the characters felt and what the creators were trying to impart, with all these episodic, tragic, funny, dense, thematic stories from episode 21 all the way to episode 26. I get it now. But how is a 16-year-old supposed to understand episode 6, which is all about letting go of the weight and the exhaustion of life, and being at peace with death? As an 1,000-year-old boy grows older and dies and screams at Spike if he understands. A 16-year-old is going to sit there, not understanding. How is a 16-year-old supposed to understand episode 9 and Jet's pain from unfinished business with a previous girlfriend? And about time and people not standing still without you. Certain things are just impossible, and you can't properly understand Cowboy Bebop without certain life experiences because the show is eclectic, and a 16-year-old can't be. It's not their fault, it's just impossible. You can't understand what it's like to carry that weight if you have no weight to carry. I think the three musts for you to understand Cowboy Bebop at a young age is you have to understand what loss and death is like, you must understand what a broken heart is like, and you must understand what truly failing is like, outside of a school setting. And again, this is life experience I, as a 16-year-old, first watching this series lacked. And I'm sure what most 16-year-olds lack when trying to understand this show, and therefore the show didn't resonate with me as it usually doesn't with younger anime fans. I've been to a ridiculous amount of funerals for my age, but understanding failure and understanding a proper broken heart were all alien to me, so I just didn't get it, and therefore I didn't understand the appeal of wallowing in sadness, and therefore I didn't understand the proper appeal of Cowboy Bebop. At least at that time. But once you finally get it, everything falls into place and you understand the wallowing in sadness feeling. And this is most evident to me in the music of Cowboy Bebop. Waltz for ZZ, just hearing it for me can destroy you. But sometimes you don't skip it in your playlist. You just sit there and you just let it all wash over you and think about things. Maybe you don't even think about the show, but in that moment, reflecting on the sad and depressing makes you feel good. Because at least you're feeling something. Elm is another one where immediately that song comes on and you have to think for a second if you are in the emotional headspace to listen to that song right now. and to think about life, or maybe just think about the heartbreak of episode 9. Jupiter Jazz, the mid-series two-parter, is synonymous in my mind with the song Goodnight Julia. And when you think about it, you just reflect on the tragedy of Gren, and how he was abandoned by Vicious, and you enjoy it for the feeling. You enjoy wallowing in sadness. Call Me might be the single biggest example of what I'm trying to portray here, and the fact that the song is very campy only adds to the genuine effect here, and you just wallow. Without maturity, without life experience, you just can't have the same experience listening and feeling these songs and relate them to yourself while identifying them with the show and its characters. And without the ability to relate this to yourself, you can't find the joy in being sad. And the fact that the sadness and acknowledging the sadness makes you proud sometimes. It all goes back to the series' conceit about carrying weight. Reflecting on the weight you've carried and you are carrying can be depressing. The weight you have to carry is basically your own tragic backstory. Everything that's happened to you is funneled directly into who you are now. That's the weight you have to carry. And there's pride there, but there's also always regret and sadness. And the combination of these things is captured in the music of this series, but more so it's just captured by the series in general. All the characters have tragic pasts that they can't escape, and trying to address them always ends in further sadness, and sometimes even with death in Spike's case. But when Spike dies, he dies with a smile on his face because there is some pride there. This is him and this is you. And the fact that this series metatextually now makes the tragic backstories of Spike, Jet, and Faye part of your possibly tragic backstory is genius. We now carry that weight, the weight of the depressing lives of Spike, Jet, Ed, and Faye, and good luck trying to forget it once you understand it. Digibro has a great video that I'd recommend about Cowboy Bebop called You're Gonna Carry That Weight, where somehow he entirely captures the feeling of Cowboy Bebop. He captures the weight and everything we've talked about here that's captured in the music and in the show, and replicates it in his own very melancholic and sad video that you also love watching for the exact same reasons. There's a particular line in that video where he talks about how in this world and in the world of Cowboy Bebop that there are so many sob stories everywhere, and that if you thought about them for too long it would break you. And so you do as Spike and Jet do, you just forget about them and move on, eating away the pain, getting back into your routine. It doesn't help, the bad memories will always find you in the bath, but eventually you're back in the same routine, starving, hunting for bounties for money, eating bell peppers with beef with no beef. Because what else is there left to do? And this is inherently sad, but it's more melancholic. And the melancholy and the acceptance that this is real, that these feelings are real, feels good. It's the weird feeling of wallowing in sadness, letting it consume you so it's not scary anymore, and even finding it enjoyable for a little while before moving on. That's the magic of Cowboy Bebop, and maybe some people are just too young to get it, like I once was. But I'm glad I get it now. So ultimately, sometimes people just like to be sad, if they have the maturity to properly be sad, and Cowboy Bebop perfectly captures that feeling, and on the back of that feeling, the show has become immortal. This has been your weird Cowboy Bebop thematic rant Patreon video for the month. Thank you to all the patrons for their support.